What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. DJ Reacts, you know what it is. Got another banger for you today. This is going to be a bit of a mix between things. Don't forget, on my last video, I mentioned the lasers and them not being able to penetrate anything blue. Now, I have one of these lasers. I've had it for years, and I knew that years ago. So Chinese government could have just called me 3 years ago and I'd have been like, yeah, just paint your shit blue. Paint your rooftops blue. You'll be all right. So if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments. I said if we get at least 100 people saying they want to see that experiment, I will gladly put it up. I might put it up at like 75, but I do want to put it up for you all, but I need more people to actually want me to put it up. I'm not just going to put it up for, the sake of showing it. But I do want you all to see it because, excuse me, seeing is believing. If you see that, you will understand why they've painted all of their government building rooftops blue. So, again, as a disclaimer, don't believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything that you see on this channel. Do your research. Always do your own research. And your research should take you to the same level that myself and my audience is at. So, we're all doing our own research. We talk about things, I love when you guys talk in the comments because we can actually interact about things, and that's highly important. But, enough with the intro. Let's get on with it.
Hi, I'm Diggity. Let's play a little game of Did You Know? Did you know that there are now armed IRS agents in all 50 states? Did you know that? Feel free to check my information. It's all legit. Did you know that the IOF trains our police, specifically the police in Georgia? Look up a program called GILEE, Gilee. Shit's terrifying. Did you know about it? Did you know that in Ferguson, when protesters were having a hard time grappling with the police, do you know that Palestinians were the ones who told them how to deal with the weapons that the police were using because they were used on Palestinians first? They were tested on Palestinians first to make sure that they were effective when they used them on U.S. citizens. Did you know that? Did you know that our tax dollars go to making sure that Israel has healthcare and education and all the shit that we've been asking for here but can't have because they tell us we don't have the money for it? Did you know that they have it because of our tax dollars? Did you know that? Did you know that Palestinians don't have a military? They don't have branches of a military. It's called guerrilla warfare. You fight with who you have and what you have, and they ain't got a lot. Did you know that? Did you know that through all of the aid that we send to Israel, that if we'd kept all that aid and used it here in the U.S., we could have eradicated so many problems that we have, including being unhoused, the unhoused crisis. We could fix all of it if we just held on to that money instead of sending it to them to kill poor brown people in a different part of the world. Did you know that? Did you know that the average lifespan in the U.S. is the age of 77? Which technically makes me middle age.
I'm going to go ahead and pause right there. So she's saying the average age in the U.S. now is 77. Do you know that's not even a telomere thing? We know scientifically for a fact our telomeres were much longer. They've been cut down to 120 years. Now that 120 years that it was cut down to, it was cut down to that because that was the average lifespan at the time. So you're talking clean air, clean food, clean water, nothing that you're intaking is going to mess you up unless you were at like one of these, you know, crazy Greek parties, where the emperor is just, giving around someone like Caligula, just giving around wine out of this tin. You're getting, like lead poisoning from it, and then you're just going crazy in your head and don't even know it. So yeah, that I just wanted to pause and say that. Let's get back to it.
Makes me middle age, which technically means that I am going to work and die in a job. I'm going to work and die as a renter, which means you probably will too. Did you also know people my age, either female or assigned female at birth, are dying at an alarming rate? Did you know that? So to say that we're middle age is really not fair. It's a lot more likely that we're at the last third of our life, so to speak, because we're all dying so quickly. Did you know that? Did you know that it doesn't matter if you vote red or blue, the result will be the same? They're the same team, babe. Did you know that? Well, before the election hits, you should figure it out pretty quick. They're the same fucking team. They both serve the ruling class. They've never done shit for the working class, and they're never going to. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're looking for advice, don't vote for an old white dude. We've seen what the old white dude set has to offer, and it's the same shit every time. Vote for a person of color, working class, preferably. And I'm not talking about Nikki Haley. She's hardly a person of color anymore. She saw to that herself. Did you know that there are more people? Did you know that? Did you know that there are more people? There are more people than cops, than government officials, than armed IRS agents. There are more people. Did you know that together, we can make a huge fucking difference if we all just stood up and decided to make a difference? Did you know that? Did you know about the 3.5% rule? Let me tell you about it. It's a rule that says that if 3.5% of a population takes a stand, they can enact major change. Did you know all it takes is 3.5% of a population? Do you know what that would equate to in America? That's about like 11.5 million people. Sounds like a lot of people, right? Guess what? 11.5 million is more than there are of cops, more than there are of government officials, more than there are of armed IRS agents. There are more people, and all we need is 3.5% to change shit. Did you know that?
So I'm just very inclined to not only understand but understand everything that she just said, and it makes complete sense. And you guys know me. If something makes sense to me, I'm gonna let you know. But if it does not make sense at all, I'm going to rip it apart. You know, uh, yeah, she's got some good stuff to say. Except for like the repetitive "Did you know? Did you know?" That would get annoying if she's doing that on a daily basis, like in person or over the phone. But other than that, she's speaking straight facts. There's nothing corrupted in anything that I've heard her say. And the scary thing is that she's right. It doesn't matter who you vote for. It does not. It's never mattered who you vote for. These bloodlines, up until Trump, all came from the same bloodline. These presidents all were of the same bloodline. Even Barry, big old Barry O, he's of the same bloodline. Isn't that crazy? So that should tell you something about not only the agenda that's being ran here, but the atrocities that they can perform just because not only are they related by blood or whatever physical relationship that they hold, whether it's they're a tall white or a reptilian or any of these things. It's it's something you have to look out for, and you should look out for. I mean, let me ask you this: if we were to get hit by an EMP in 2 hours, they say within the first year of an EMP hitting, and we've been busted down back to the scavenger class, back into like the 1700s, 1600s, where there's no actual um, survival mechanisms. Could we survive there with what we know? You know, would that be an issue? I bet it would for most people. They can't go a day without going to Starbucks and get their, you know, cafe mocha latte with a sprinkle of this and a dash of that and a blah 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 blah. Just going on sugar with an extra shot of espresso. Even though it comes with one. No, you've got to understand how pure you are. You've got to understand how important you all are. Now, I've said this so many times in every video. If we could actually stand together, we would change things. Now, the problem with that is, communism was written that way. Communism was written to the point to where it's like, okay, well, you have to join the military forces, but after that, you come home and you are limited to what you can do. For men, they had like 8 to 10 haircuts they could have, but as far as clothing, they had their regular clothing and their play clothing or their workout clothing. And the same thing with women. And it's a very fucked up situation. So, yeah, I agree with what she says. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you agree with her or not. She said some straight facts. She's spitting some straight bars right there. I can't be mad at her at all. Alright, like I said, I wasn't going to do anything on Flat Earth, but some of it's compelling, so let's give it a shot. Check it out.
Hey, you! You still think Antarctica is a continent at the bottom of a globe? You haven't figured it out? It's an ice wall yet? Well, stick around. If you watch this whole thing, you might just figure it out. Let's first take a walk down memory lane back to 1957 when the Navy went to Antarctica, and what did they find? A never-ending, and I mean never-ending ice wall. And I fast forward this thing here so you can just get an idea of it, but they're panning and panning and panning and flying a helicopter and panning, and they never get to the end because it is an ice wall that surrounds all the known lands. Like I said, never ending. Just keeps going. That's all it. See, these old maps used to show it. This is called the Hammond map from 1933, and you can research this yourself. And look, this is Antarctica down here, okay? They're not showing Antarctica as a continent at the bottom. They're showing Antarctica as an ice wall that surrounds us.
I just wanted to say, I have these maps. If you guys want to see them, let me know. I have all of these maps. I was a big stamp map coin geek when I was younger. And one of the things that I noticed was, I grew up with between a 3,000 and 5,000 book library, right, in my home. And I still have a lot of those books. But one thing that always baffled me was the fact that you have all of this knowledge, right? And where does it start to become false? Because it's not just maps, it's everything that's ever existed in these encyclopedias.
The outline of the map, that's the outline of Antarctica. See, this is what NASA tells us Antarctica looks like, and to me, this looks like it could easily be CGI or something a kindergartner drew. And if you ever go on Google Maps or anything and try to do distances on this, it goes all haywire. You know why? Because Antarctica is an ice wall. And I don't claim to know what's outside of the ice wall. Maybe there is more land. I do believe there's a dome above us, and I think there's good evidence to support that.
Let me throw in my 2 cents. I'm sorry for pausing. I know you guys are probably cursing me like, fucking did it again. But look, so yeah, the evidence is highly compelling. But I have 2 thoughts, right? So 2 are my thoughts. If you were going to prove that the world is flat, I only have 2 thoughts. Excuse me. So the first thought is that the sun, no matter where in orbit it is, can only light up exactly 50% of our planet. The other half is in darkness. And it just goes like that, you know. This way. And everything in its past path is in darkness. 50% though, exactly 50%. Here's the other thing. If you were to go to Greenland, Iceland, Norway, any of these places, and look up at the night sky, you know, see the Aurora Borealis, not the David Borealis. Probably don't get that joke. Anyways, you'd see the Aurora Borealis. Now, when you go down to Antarctica and you look up, you see the exact same stars, identical, never changing, but you see them backwards. So if the Earth were flat, that would not happen, right? You can try to quantify the sun being 50% no matter where it's at in its orbit, but you can't sit there and tell me that, you know, no matter where you're at, you're going to see the stars in the same formation. No, when you're up north, they're going to go this way. When you're in the south, they're going to go that way. So counterclockwise to one another. We all know that magnetic energy goes to the left, electronic energy goes to the right. So that's where you get your torsion fields, right? Get your torsion fields flowing like this at the bottom and then like this at the top, you know, reversing each other, causing polarity. That's what the poles are for. Now, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying that there's no dome. I'm not saying that any of this is impossible. I'm just saying that those are 2 things I would have to see proven for me to truly believe it, because they come out with some very great, very good, compelling evidence. But those are 2 things that I can ask anyone, just like I can ask anyone that teaches evolution. You know, I'll get under their skin so fucking quick. They hate me, you know, because I get into it with them. And all they can do is refer to books and people and archaeologists. And I'm like, no, I don't care about any of that. Show me the missing link. Show me a fraction of the missing link in anything. In anything, show me. It doesn't have to be human. It doesn't have to be human. Show me the missing link anywhere. I've yet to find it. Maybe that's my journey. Maybe you guys have, but for me, I've never found it. So let's continue.
But I don't know. I don't know what's out here. It's all speculation. I think that this stuff there could be bigger and bigger domes. But like I said, it's all speculation. I think there even could be something like this, and I'm not saying with the eyeball, but just, maybe our life and our dome and our ice wall is here, but then there are other ones outside. I even don't think that goes against the Bible and the teachings of Jesus and God, because maybe that Bible is just for our little world here, and there's other things that God created, and by the time he got to us, he wanted to do it right, and so he made us in his image.
But I thought God never makes a mistake. Right? God never makes mistakes. Then why would he have the urge to do it right? Right? Let's go back and hear it.
World here, and there's other things that God created, and by the time he got to us, he wanted to do it right, and so he made us in his image. But even though I'm not sure about this, what I am pretty sure of, I do think there is a barrier, and I think there is some fluid above that barrier. And I don't think that's speculation. I think there's good evidence of that I'm going to show you. Like I said, I think there is some actual evidence.
I haven't seen this video, but I already know what he's going to play. And I can not only show you this on my telescope, I've seen it numerous times. So you're looking at the moon, and you're looking through a telescope, right? A high-powered telescope. And actually, the fucking new Samsung S23 Ultra does a phenomenal job of getting this close to the moon. It's shocking. Not only is it shocking, it pissed me off because my buddy's like, using his new Samsung and taking photos of the moon, and they're almost, not quite, but almost as close as what I could take with my telescope. But yeah, you see the ripples. See the ripples going through. And I said this in another video. Initially, my mind would go to, okay, whatever lens you're looking at, the refresh rate is much lower compared to the aperture rate of the camera. So you're going to see these lines, just like if you were to take a modern day digital camera and go look at a TV that was from the 80s or 90s, you're just going to see these lines going up and up. These are very specific. I already know. I promise you, I haven't seen this, but I already know what he's going to say. He's talking about the water waves, the lines going up. It's either hologramic, or it's water.
That above our enclosed system is some sort of fluid. Maybe a superfluid, maybe it's just regular water. But this is called the lunar wave, and it's been captured dozens of times. And I think this, plus what I'm going to show you next with stars, is pretty good evidence that it's not infinite space above us, but some sort of fluid. So again, this is what a star looks like if you've never seen it, but it looks an awful lot like a pool light in water. Like I said, some evidence to support there's water above us. You guys, I really think it's about time you trade this in for that. And if you like this ice wall hat, find it at fittestflatearther.com.
Alright, now if you know me, I've got to put some comedy in here. We got to get off of the super serious stuff, so let's get into a little bit of comedy. I pretty much have PTSD from this kind of thing because I grew up in places where walking home at night, dogs were barking everywhere, and until you heard a chain rattling or breaking loose, and then you would hear nails on the ground, kind of like nails on the ground. You knew a dog was coming after you. It's dark. So we would end up in, one of a few places. I would either go up a tree, on top of a car, or on top of a mailbox or whatever that would keep the dog from getting to me. Little did I know at that age that you could just stomp at a dog, because most dogs will not bite. There's some out there that will. Mine will on command. But yeah, she bumps a fan and takes off running. So yeah, let's check it out. Just for a little bit of levity throughout the video. Those tiny dogs are evil. I have been chased on top of a brick mailbox housing by a chihuahua. Just like Napoleon syndrome to the max. Like they just and you're not thinking, it happened so fast. You're not thinking. You're like, is that a fucking rat? Is that a squirrel? Oh fuck! And it's coming, and you're gone. You gotta go. That's all you got.
Oi! Fucking get back off!
Run.
Some levity's good. Levity's always good.
Most of the people that still think we live on a globe have no idea how satanic the globe actually is. If you research the speed of the Earth, it's 66,600 miles per hour, 666. The equation for the curvature of the Earth is 0.66 feet per mile squared. The Arctic Circle latitude, 66.6 degrees north. The Antarctic Circle latitude, 66.6 degrees south. The tilt of the Earth's axis is 66.6 degrees. Here is wisdom, let him hath understanding count the number of the beast, right, or the number of the devil, Satan. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 636, or 666. Right, and they have to put this stuff right in your face when they put these lies out. Because God told us in the book of Luke 12 verses 3, whatever is spoken in darkness, they must proclaim it upon the housetops, right? So they have many ways of putting this stuff right in your face and letting you know that it's a satanic deception. Right? The deception is to take you away from God's true creation. They don't want you to know God sits above the firmament enthroned. They want you to think you're just some small speck flying through this vast galaxy, which is not true. Right? The Bible says, don't be ignorant of Satan's devices, right? Or else what? Or else he gets an advantage over us. Right, we can prove this to be wrong in about 3 seconds when we understand that God told us the world is stable and that it cannot be moved. He says it many times, the Lord reigneth, he is clothed with majesty, the Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself, the world also established, that it cannot be moved. So look at that, the majesty and the strength of God is literally associated with the earth being immovable. Here it is again, Psalm 104, God's marvelous creation, who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever. So, all this hidden information, we've gone ahead and compiled it into the True Earth book. Highly recommend you guys go download that. Check the profile. When you download.
But, so, I think he answered his own question at the very beginning. So, if you were to create, say you were God, right? Not, a specific God of a Bible. You were God, the source of all love and creation, right? And you had to create the universe. Well, obviously, you would have to be outside of time, matter, and space in order to create that, right? Like, one of us cannot go and cannot stretch, but we would not go or we couldn't go into a place where we were going to build a vehicle and then build that vehicle around us. We would have to be able to be outside of all that in order to construct it properly, right? So then you have the three things that matter: time, matter, space. And it's outside of all of those things. Otherwise, it wouldn't work to say that it's God. Or she was God, or whatever. Source. You could not invent all of those things or create them if you were already within them, because they're already created. So you would have to exist outside of those dimensions in order for that creation to happen. And I think that's a very simple way of looking at it that people tend to overlook. And you're trying to question the mind of something that's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. You can't even get your life straight. How are you going to question or try to figure out the mind of the source of all love and creation in this universe? How are you going to do that? You can't even do your own taxes. But you want to sit here and play like you know God. It doesn't work like that. And the real people. So you're sitting here trying to actually, like, you're trying to say that God has created all of these things. Call it God, source, whatever you want to call it. The source of all life, matter, and creation. So if you wanted to create something like our universe, you would have to be outside of that universe. In order to create time, space, and matter, you would have to exist outside of it, because if you existed within it, then it's already been created. Source says, I am Alpha and Omega. I am. I've always been and I always will be. So if you have to create that universe cannot exist with you in it prior to creation. Otherwise, it was already created. Are you understanding? If you existed within it, it's already there. You didn't create it. Someone else did, and you came upon it. You have to exist outside of all of that in order to create. That's my point. And it's a very humanistic way of thinking, to think that you can think of what the mind of God or source says. That's a very humanistic way. You can't even do your own taxes. Your life's not together. Shit's all over the place, left and right, depending on the time of day. But you think you can speak for something that's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Always has been, always will be, and outside of everything in order to create them, which is why everything is now. There's no such thing as linear time. Time is not linear. It is always now, especially to God. I don't care what you call it. You can call it source, you can call it God, but the creator of all love and universal laws could only do that. They are outside of it. So don't listen to people when they try to berate you or put you down for anything that you're doing. Don't listen to them when they're saying that, oh, I know God, blah, blah, blah. That's a personal relationship. And I'm not talking religion, so please don't think I'm pushing any kind of religious thing at all. I'm talking scientifically. Your relationship, we're all each other. We are all pieces. Say if God split up into 5 million pieces, and that's who we are. Each one of us is a percentage God. Then we are not only parts of God, but we're also each other, which makes it stupid for us to want to harm each other. Because at the end, we are all just extensions of the one true source of love, light, and creation. experiencing experience. I hope that came across right. If not, I'll try to do better next time. Alright, let's see what this bloke's talking about.
Most people are not even aware that there is a consciousness shift happening on the planet right now. There's so many distractions. There's all this stuff happening, crazy stuff happening all over the world. And what happens is when people are in fear and anger, they're much easier to control. They're much less likely to ask deeper questions. They're in survival mode. They're literally worried about their safety and their health. And because of that, what do most people do then? They look to authority. They look to authority to feel safe. They look to authority to tell them what's happening. And when people are in that level of consciousness, they are way less powerful. Now, there's a new earth that is coming. Can you feel it? Eckhart Tolle talked about this. He wrote a whole book about it called A New Earth, which has to do.
I don't know if you all know who Eckhart Tolle is, but he's another German that is extremely profound in his philosophical teachings, and he's become like, I don't know how to describe him. He is an amazing person, and he's not doing anything crazy. He's not doing anything that's like offhand that you wouldn't be able to do because of, ethical issues or what have you. But I'll leave a link to him in one of my videos. Hopefully this one, if I can remember. Yeah, I haven't done anything on him because his talks are very long, and it takes a long time to comprehend them if you're not already on that path. But I've known about him for over a decade, and he's the real deal. There's not a lot of people that I support where I'll say, yeah, that's the real deal right there. He and Dolores Cannon 1000% are. I would bet all of the money I make within a year, which is not a whole lot, not compared to like multi-million. I would be willing to bet all of my money that he would resonate with you much better than most people would. The problem is they've tried to hide him because of what he speaks about. And he does not give a shit, which is even more beautiful.
With a level of consciousness that is emerging on the planet, and literally, if we do not evolve our level of consciousness, our planet will destroy itself. Let's cross-check this over to what Dolores Cannon talked about in 17 or 19 of her books. And it wasn't even her talking about it. Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist for like 40 years. And her books are transcripts from people in a deep level of hypnosis. And tens of thousands of people all over the world have been in this specific healing hypnosis state where they're.
So if you don't know who Dolores Cannon is, she is pretty much the inventor of she's the inventor of past life regressions and past life regression therapy. She is the absolute bee's knees when it comes to that. Nobody compares when it comes to her. And even she spoke about, it took her years to finally accept this, because she would have somebody regress to their past lives and they would describe what they're seeing. And all of a sudden, these entities would take over the body whose consciousness is out somewhere else. And these other entities would come in and start talking to her, telling her things. And obviously, if I'm not mistaken, quote me on this, if I'm not mistaken, she was raised Baptist. And so she's having all of these discussions with these people And, you know, it's mind-boggling to her. And just like I always say, we have to feed it to you one spoonful at a time, because it will be overwhelmed, because it completely destroys any paradigm you have within you. But the way she does it is amazing, and she had to go through all of that in order for her to excel. And so it's a hard thing to do, you know. In the beginning, from what I've heard, you know, she didn't tell anybody about it, and then when she started telling people, you know, they're just like, oh, you know, that was just a fluke, or, you know, that was something in the back of this man's brain. Well, your brain's not connected at that time, not to your body. Your consciousness is going elsewhere, and that's what you're speaking on. So, yeah, I've got nothing but good stuff to say about her. You guys should check her out. Check her out. Dolores Cannon.
Our higher self comes through. It's like voice recorded. Many people don't even remember when they come out what they're saying or what they said. They're in like this state of consciousness where their higher self and their subconscious mind comes through to relay all this information. And there's many books written that are just transcribed sessions with people. And interestingly enough, thousands of people from all over the world who have done this kind of hypnosis and their higher self and subconscious mind came through, you want to know what it said? Many times in different ways. We came here to be a part of this shift. The shift in consciousness. We came here to be and to help the planet move into what is called New Earth. A new way of being, a new level of consciousness. And we came here to help that transition happen so that people didn't get left behind. Because in Dolores Cannon's material, what it talks about is this 3D to 5D Earth split. Now, this sounds very esoteric, sounds kind of woo-woo, and there are things we need to realize about this that I want to share, because people might get kind of lost in the details of this. But a 3D to 5D Earth split. Let's first off talk about the different elements of 3D to 5D. It's very important to understand this, because then you can see where your vibration is laying, because whatever your vibration is in, that is the reality you are experiencing. And what it says in the Dolores Cannon material is that there's these two levels of consciousnesses that will be on the planet for a period of time. But then eventually what will happen is these levels of consciousness will begin to shift. And with it, there will be an energy split that happens, an energetic energy split. I want to make that clear. This is something that also Bashar has talked about, who's been around for almost 40 years, channeling very similar material and energy. And what he talks about is how you want to be on the train track you want to be on, because as the years continue to progress, because things are evolving in consciousness, the track that you are on with the train track, it's like you're leaving a station. And what happens is eventually they're going to be splitting all these different tracks. And what happens is, for a period of time, which is what we're in right now, you have the ability to look at the other train tracks to see what's happening. You can see. It's almost like there's a glass wall that you can look and observe. But what he says is similar to what Dolores Cannon says, is that as time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to jump from train track to train track, or to even see what's going on. It's literally as if your frequency shifts, and then you just cannot perceive of the old vibration anymore, of the old earth anymore, if you're on the new earth.
But you shouldn't want to. That's my whole take. If you were completely into this new earth and all of these things, you should not want to. Now, one thing that happens when you cross over, and I can honestly state this for a fact 3 times over, is that not only do you understand everything, forgiveness is automatic. because you have so much information coming into you all at once to where you understand that this is a play and you had no reason to be like that towards that person. You could have left them alone, unless your life was in danger, you could have left them alone. So I guess I just don't believe that certain people have gone into depth about these things, come out with their own results and conclusions. It's one thing to sit there and, copy what someone says verbatim. It's a whole other thing to go about it yourself. And like I said, we're all the same thing. We have a bit of differences here and there, but generally we're all the same. Just like I said, when I was pre-med, but I switched to engineering. You don't become a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist, whatever you want to call it. And you're not like, oh, I only know how to work on brown people, so go get George. He's the white guy surgeon. I can only work on brown people. They're just completely different. No, you don't hear that because it's not true. And that's a very scary agenda to put out there, to make people think that they have to divide in order to live and get along and keep their family safe. That's a horrible pill to swallow, and you should never swallow that. You should do your research and realize that all of us that are doing the best that we can to raise these vibrations, we can't all do it alone. We can do a vast majority of it alone. And I know there's some of you out there that are on the same path as me, that have been on the same path as me, or probably ahead of me. And I know you understand this. You would not be able to do what you can do if you did not innately and completely understand everything about this topic. So don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not good enough, or this is outside of the scope of your knowledge or anything like that. No, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're amazing, and arming yourself with knowledge is the best thing you can do. Because, to quote one of the Christian Bibles, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Not my people perish for lack of sustenance, nutrients, food, relationships, knowledge. Knowledge. Think about that. Just think about that. And then you can go study the Gnostics. There's a whole thing there. So I just want to throw that in. Sorry.
Vice versa, if you're trapped in the energies of what is called 3D, which is kind of being asleep in the illusion of duality, of separation. If you think of 3D and 5D Earth, think of it like 3D is that of separation, duality, good, bad, light, dark, fear, anger, being stuck in a form of victimization, being stuck in they're doing this to us, or they're doing this to me, stuck in the old patterns, angry, it's the government's fault, buying into the media. These are all very common things, the social conditioning of the third dimension level of consciousness. Now, what it talks about in that Dolores Cannon, Eckhart Tolle even, Bashar, and even also the Law of One, which are considered some of the most profound channelings of our time, talks about this same split, this same type of energy. And it's called the harvest. The harvest is where it's happening right now. There's a harvesting of energy within every one of our bodies of consciousness that we have the potential to sprout. And there will be this option to literally upgrade to a higher level of consciousness in our life. Now, 5D is more about understanding connection to each other. Unity. What we put out is what you put out is what you get back. That we're all in this together. When you think of 5D, it's also like having the courage to do the shadow work, to take ownership and responsibility for what's happening, not just blaming everything else happening out there. What can I change within myself? Following your passion, your purpose, understanding money in a very different way. Living more at unity and at one with the earth. Now, some of these things I'm sharing with you right now, it may seem like a long shot. You're telling me we're going to do this all right now? But the thing is if we don't, we continue to crumble with the old level of consciousness. Now, what it says in Dolores Cannon's material is that back in the 1920s, 1930s, there was an energetic call that was put out through the universe that literally said the earth was like, I'm going to be destroyed. I know this sounds very esoteric, but this is also talked about in the Law of One, and it is also talked about in Dolores Cannon and her material, and even Bashar, and even Eckhart Tolle would probably agree with this too. The earth is a sentient being, and we are cells on it. Macrocosm, microcosm. I know this sounds esoteric for some people, but the earth has chakra points on it. In the Law of One, it's called the logos. There's these different connection to different planetary systems and spheres and...
See, everything he's talking about is completely true. And yeah, our planet has consciousness. Everything on this planet has consciousness. Everything, whether it's an animate object or an inanimate object. Take, my cup right here. This cup has consciousness. Now, whether that cup has any kind of precursor or adaptability to grow in that consciousness, that's a whole other story. But we do know that everything has consciousness. So when you're looking at these crazy ships in the sky that seem to defy gravity, they're not defying gravity, they're working with it. Built a gravitational and magnetic field around themselves. Because think about it, if you're going, 27,000 miles an hour and decide, oh, I gotta go left, psh, like that, bodies are just gonna splatter and be nothing but soup. So, of course, there's ways of going about it. I just didn't want you guys to get... I didn't want him to say something that I know for a fact and disagree with and didn't say anything. I would just feel bad if I did that. So, let's continue. It's almost done.
It's all microcosm, macrocosm. So what happens is, on planet Earth, there was a call that was put out back in the 1920s, 1930s, when we were experimenting with nuclear bombs. And what happened is it was very clear that the timeline we were on is we were going to destroy ourselves if nothing happened. But then what happened is there was this call that Mother Earth put out, Mother Gaia, whatever name. I know it sounds really weird and esoteric to even say that for some people. But that call that was put out, there were people, beings all over the universe that felt this connection to Earth, that knew it was going to be very hard, that knew they were going to have to forget who they are to remember who they are, and that they came here to go through that process because they wanted to be here during the shift. They call it the shift. This was, once again, through thousands of people that have been in QHHT from Dolores Cannon's technique. So this isn't just like one person said this. Many people, just like you and me, that are in deep level hypnosis would say these things. Came here to be a part of the shift. Came here to be a part of the new earth. And one of the rules of our reality is we must forget who we are to remember who we are. And then we go through a process of redefining who we are and how we choose to show up in the world. Now, the values of the 3D, it's very much about unconsciousness. And that's why what we must do now on the planet is become...
Alright, so that's the end of that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you really dug that and got something out of it. I wanted to do a little back and forth, a smidge of comedy, but get into some actual in-depth things. And like I always say, if you want to converse, hit me up in the comments. I love talking to you guys. You're the absolute best. I mean, you guys truly make my day. I learn from you. I learn from the things that you guys say, and hopefully that relationship is 50-50, you know, a give and take, you know, because I put stuff out there also. Now, some people put it in a much better way and they take that shortcut route and they're good at getting it across, you know, in just like a fraction of a spoonful, where I would usually use an entire spoonful. So that's the difference. But I hope you guys loved it. I just wanted to throw something up, you know, and like I said, let me know if you want to see the laser, if you want to see the fact that the lasers cannot penetrate anything blue, whether it's a rooftop or a piece of paper. If we get 100 people saying we want that, I will put it up. And do me a favor, smash that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Let's run the numbers up on the algorithm. I think we've got one of the greatest, and we're building one of the greatest communities ever on this topic. And I know it's going slow, but we're getting there. We're building. That's the whole thing. We are building. Now, you're going to see people that think they want to build the way we do. They think they want to know the truths that we're spitting out there. And then they'll get to a point to where they're like, oh, I thought this way my whole life, and I didn't know it was actually like this. So then they'll leave. And that's just, you know, even though I don't believe in it, that's evolution taking care of itself. You know, to me, that's taking all of the caution labels off of anything and just letting life work itself out. So I appreciate all of you that are standing by. I appreciate all of you that comment, all of you that interact with me. And seriously, let me know. You want to see the laser project? Let me know. I will love to post that just to open your eyes so you could see. You know, it's one thing to hear. It's one thing to hear these things, but when you see it, it's completely different. You cannot negate that. So I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you on another one.